Hello, we are back. Thank you all for your patience. Sorry that was a lot longer than I expected. The actual test was super fast, but there was even though they do it by appointments, there was a long line, so just took a while to get through it. But it was a very nice, brisk experience. If anyone's ever trying to figure out a way to wake themselves up in the morning, they stay up till 4 a.m. studying the stars and astrology, and they can't quite wake up in the morning. I certainly getting a nose swab is one way to do it.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I've done it 6 times now, and it's not terrible. Like
Yeah,
it's not comfortable, but it's yeah,
yeah,
it's like yeah, it definitely like defines the stages of your nose where you're uh like where you might stick a tissue, where you would stick your pinky if it was long and skinny enough and you were picking it and no one was looking. And then it's like a little bit beyond that is like, whoa, I didn't know that this was a thing.
yeah.
And that's kind of where you're at for 10 seconds with this one. And yeah, it's quite the experience, no doubt.
Brisk,
It's
brisk.
bracing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bracing.
So before I ran off to go do that, I apologize. I interrupted, but you were telling me about how Igna had become sort of stubborn in his old days, and that
Yeah.
he had maybe lost some arguments with people, and that had set him in his own way. It set him in his
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. And I think he never got rid of um, humility in the face of one's betters. I think that stayed. That's like a character trait that stayed with him. And then you can see the the curiosity that became driven.
Mm.
And yeah, uh, and I think that's about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I should give you more traits, but I feel like those are like the big ones.
No, that's great. I get that's yeah. I love it. Um,
Cool.
yeah, I think Nara is sort of staring at the tomb for a while, and she looks at the circle and the square, and she looks back at it, and she says, and it's clear that her eyes are sort of out of focus, and there's a sort of a glint in them, and she says, he got to be a. She says, I'm not surprised he needed help carrying the wheel back up the mountain. He got to be a stubborn old man. I bet he was still holding on to it well after he should have. But he was really driven to 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 do more. Not sure if that'll help when talking to him, but you
Couldn't
can just
hurt.
tell.
It couldn't hurt. So let us go over the orders. We can summon the restless dead, the sanctified dead, the minor corporeal spirit, the corporeal spirit, the major corporeal spirit, and the minor deity or the deity. I think in this world, minor deity is the deity. Like that's it. There's no major deities. There's no chief deities.
Right.
So I think minor, like I think he just calls it the deity, right?
Yeah.
And they all come with different prices. And I think he like goes over them, right? The dead want a tribute, something that will allow people to remember them. The minor corporeal spirit has a price that I doubt you will ever forget. They wish to have possession.
Yep.
The interesting. What does the price, the physical price? A corporeal spirit will demand a physical sacrifice. An eye, a tongue, a hand, an arm, a leg. They are dangerous and hungry. A major corporeal spirit will demand a mark upon your person and a soul.
Nara sort of shudders the idea
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these things are scary, but
Yeah. You can see like after minor corporeal, like it gets scary.
yeah.
And then deities will demand a mark and some other price. It varies depending on which deity you gather. I have never summoned anything of that. And also, it is, you can gain adeptness with each order. Much like you have a reputation among certain groups of people. Same kind of idea. And he says, I will
summoning the sanctified dead.
We will be summoning the sanctified dead. I will do the talking. And I think he like motions for you to like kneel in the fortress circle, in one of the fortress circles. I think you made two, right? And then you drew like this thin line that goes to the summoning circle. And you know, it's between being in the being someone who summons the sanctified dead quite a bit. He's very good at this. And he calls up Igna. And I think you see Igna's spirit kind of come forward. And he kind of, the spirit's image kind of goes back and forth. I think when he looks at Bezor, he kind of grows older. And then when he kind of turns to you, you see him as like a young apprentice.
Oh, cool.
And like, so he's like kind of like, and you can see him kind of turning back and forth, like as he turns, like almost like
shifts.
as he goes.
One of those holograms where if you look at it from one way, it looks one way, and you look at it from another way, it looks this little. They're not holograms, but the 2D.
Nope. I know what you mean. Yep. I think he comes in. I think the lanterns get a bit dimmer and the room gets a little colder. Maybe you can like see your own breath. And Igna says, I could feel stirrings. Has Shadowholt been populated once again? And Bezor says, yes, we are gathering for another choosing. We are of an archmage. And Ignis smiles and says, and who are you? And I think Bezor like gives his lineage. He says, I am Bezor. I am, and he like kind of gives his resume, right? He kind of says, I am a wizard of the, what is the school? You came up with the cool names for the school. I am a wizard of, it's Wind and Change, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am a practitioner in the School of Wind and Change. I most frequently contact the dead in order to learn the history of a people who are no longer here in the Southern Forest. This is my apprentice, Nara Janos Songender. She is also a practitioner of the same school and is learning summoning here today. I have a question for you, if you would, and then if you would speak to my apprentice about the act of becoming an archmage, I would be honored. And he says, there is never any price for summoning me to speak of the pursuit of the wheel. What is it that you wish today, Bezor? And he says, like, do you, I need I will be here for some time, I believe, and I wish to uh, study the people of the Southern Forest, but I don't know how to navigate the library of the vault or how the dwarves organize their lore. Can you give me some? Can you give me some guidance? And I think he like tells, uh, like he tells Bezor like which indices to get so that he can look at them and which languages they'll be in, and how to navigate the library of the vault. And he says, and now my apprentice would like to ask you some questions about Archmagery and tell you about her history with the title. And I think Igna turns away from Bezor and then looks to you and like just becomes, in the way he looks and his good way his ghost seems, he goes from this kind of old man, and you can see like the old man was like, never really took the weight of the wheel well, and his body became kind of damaged by it. Whereas when you looked at the statue of Ostafa, uh,
Oster.
yeah, of the Ostafa, yeah, she seemed to like her body adjusted and she grew stronger, right? Whereas it seemed like Igna never did, and
Okay.
it caused imbalances that he never corrected. And he turns to you and then becomes very young, and so like the kind of hunch corrects itself because he's young now,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "How can I help you, apprentice?"
And I think when Igna had told had said there's never any price to pay for me to talk about the pursuit of Archimagery when he was talking to Bezor, um, Nara kind of visibly like relaxed a little bit, like she was sort of clenching for like what's the cost going to be, what do I have to pay, and then when
Yeah,
she heard that there isn't one for this, she sort of like, I think she's sitting on her heels and she sort of sank down into them a little bit more, relaxing, not quite as tense. And seeing him be younger also feels like, oh, maybe this is a less stubborn Igna
right, right.
than I thought he was. And so she relaxes a little bit, maybe to the point of maybe letting her guard down more than she should, but says, I'm Nara Janos. They call me Song Ender. The elves call me the Song Ender. Um, my mother was Bina Janos, she and my father was Deke, and she tries to kind of give a resume, but then realizes that she doesn't really have one.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a lineage of wizards in her family, and she says, "I was born in Karakage, which is where I heard where you were born as well."
Yes.
And
My parents uh, were merchants, and they were traveling when I was born.
mm, my parents lived there. My father's a wheelwright, and my mother was a servant in her lord's quarters until she became a famous stopper of wars, and
Oh,
then joined and then uh, studied the wheel after that, or joined the clergy. Um,
so allow me to get this straight. Your mother is some kind of knight?
no, doesn't laugh. Sean's laughing. No, no, she was just a peasant in her. She was just a peasant or a servant in her lord's quarters. She just learned. The elves told me when I was very young that um, about what happened and between the elven consort, and she's kind of trying to rack her brain for this because it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But she says the elves and the dwarves are about to go to war, and the Tower of Karakagi was going to fall again. And at the old abandoned tower, the old tower that fell last time I was visited, by 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 um, by a number of by elves who told me, and then my mother, why they were going to war, and she convinced them not to. And she
Wow.
sort of looks like, yeah, take that one, and like
Yeah.
deal with that as like the pressure from your family. Live up to that is, I guess, the kind of like exasperated look she gives.
Yeah.
Um,
Love it.
and she says, the wizard Rasmus um, said that he was uh, seen by the elven etharch, and she determined that he would not be the archmage, but that he had a method for auguring who would be. And I think, God, I can't remember. There were 3 objects that Nara pulled from Rasmus's hat, and I think there was a scroll, and I don't remember the other 2.
Okay.
But she says he had some of your possessions mixed in with a number of other baubles. And when I was very young, I picked each of them, and so he thought that I might follow in your wake. And the elves think I will follow in your wake, and my parents think I will follow in your wake, and they all believe I will be the next archmage. But I've met someone who has tried since you and did not go well. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, I just I have this old book of yours, and she sort of like pulls out the book and says,
My traveling tome. I lost that. I lost that in a river. How did you find it?
the Tourlemagne warden who you bound to the road. I did her a service.
One of the gem wardens. Huh.
I
Wow.
asked her if she could teach me of you, and she did. Or she gave me this. But it's your personal notes, and I have still learning my letters, and so I wondered if you. And while I'm first, I want to know if I have your permission to read your notes. I don't know that it was meant for other people.
Read it. I'm dead. I can't make any use of it. It's too dark to read down here. He like makes like just like a bad I'm dead haha joke.
My dad. And she says, so what I'm wondering, and I don't know if you can answer me this with words, but what I'm wondering is if you could tell me how you knew you were ready to take the wheel.
The path that leads you. So on one hand, the council is made by people. And so it is political and can be manipulated and can be faulty. So the 3 chores on one hand are an artifice, right? Enoch never did 3 chores. There was no council there. There were not wizards. There was no such thing. So it is an artifice that we have created, just like everything else, just like the divine right of dukes and kings. So, but that said, and so taking that into account and knowing full well that Ostafa was treated unjustly by the council and was nearly denied archmagery and a shot at it because men are fools. That's why. And We loathe an outsider, and the council can be a problem. But how did I know I was ready? I had made a good spell. I had enchanted a good item. I had taken my time. I did not rush. I I knew my summoning was strong, and I had garnered a strong reputation among certain spirits through my travels that helped me keep the road safe. And the spell I created was one in which the fire of the wheel would not touch me. And it
Seems
was
smart.
it was an ambitious spell, and I hid it carefully so that others would not be able to pick up the wheel and use it. And Nara, I want to tell you how to do it and just make it easy for you, but I feel like I cannot. I think you have to find your own way to deal with those fires, whatever that is. Uh, I knew I was ready because I knew I could keep myself safe from the fire, and I knew that my 3 chores were strong and wouldn't make the world worse. The spell I created for my school was not the spell I used to keep the fires off of me because I did not want it out in public. And I knew that if others saw it, the moment I put the wheel down, someone else would pick it up.
Well, I don't have any of those things, but I appreciate you telling me them.
When I first came to Wheelholt and the archmages uh, choosing first started, I had none of it either. What is interesting about this place that we've created is that wizards are going to come here from around the world. Learn from them. See what you can learn. Even if you pursue the wheel, the the journey is the journey is a kind of cleansing fire in and of itself. You will become a strong wizard through trying to do those 3 things. And that is why we made it the way we did. Because they wanted to, I did not make it. It was made in years before me. It was made so that the wizards who did not reach the wheel would only become stronger wizards.
She sort of chuckles and she's like, that sounds like something my mom would say. Well, and I think that she became a little crestfallen when he said, "Oh, the 3 chores is just artifice, just something we made up." Because she's a
Yeah.
believer and she does really believe that like all these things are ordained.
Right.
And so when he's like, "Yeah, the right of kings and whatnot, that's just something we made up," like
Right.
it's true, but it's hard. Like it's like the kid who doesn't want to give up on Santa. Like she's
Yeah.
not really ready to hear those things, but
Cool. Yeah.
but she says, well, that's what I would like. I would like to learn more, and if that means that I carry the wheel down one day, so be it. But even if I don't, there's so much I don't know. Can I ask you one more question?
Of course.
It sounds like from your stories that you didn't finish your work, that you still had more you wanted to do before you had to return the wheel, and that the prince had to help you bring it back, and he became your student. Um, what There hasn't been an archmage since you. You're the last. What did you? What of your work is still undone? What of your work would you see someone else pick up?
I made the world around us a little safer. I met a young wizard, and she was not impressed with my title at all. And I asked her why, and she said, because I am leaving the world as I found it and not changing it. And I talked about making the road safer, and she disagreed. And she said, the Lord of Fire put the wheel here so that we could burn society to the ground and rebuild it from the ashes if need be. And I was on my way back to Wheelholt to put the wheel back up. I could barely carry the damn thing anymore. My back was shot. Ostafa had that right. You should prepare your body as well as you prepare your mind. It was Ostafa who helped build this city, and Ostafair. And I wanted to look at the world with fresh eyes and think about what needed burning. There were no wars during my tenure, not because I was some great statesperson, but because I was lucky. I was born into a peaceful time. And I made the roads a little safer. I didn't burn down any castles, but I wasn't born into the times that Ostafa was. She was born in tumultuous times where they were trying to crown a monarch. And for whatever reason, I was not. I wanted to walk the roads one more time and look at things with fresh eyes. See things as the villagers saw them, as the city folk, as the peasants saw them. Instead of those with coin and those with title. I think I had a lot of assumptions. Despite being born a commoner, I used my title to cement myself among those who are of noble blood, instead of looking at the world from another point of view.
Sounds like you would have liked to have lived another life.
I needed one more go at it.
She sort of like looks up. It seems like it's a common refrain.
Yeah.
If I had one more shot.
He does. He says it like in good humor. And he says, that's not the way things work, though. And no matter what you think you can do, don't ever reach for that. Death is there for a reason. The Lord of Fire, and he like makes the sign of the wheel like reverently. The Lord of Fire set things in a certain way. And when your fire is out, let it go out.
And she looks to Bezor to see if there's anything he either wants to say or if there's an official like way to end the summoning.
Yeah, I think Bezor like looks at you like, are you done? You know, and he says, yeah.
Would it be possible for would it be possible it seems sort of silly, but like would it be possible for Igna to help me read some of the passages so that, for instance, if I want to do a read test on this later on, I would
nice.
have his help, like, or I even a read test right now, like if I could say like, could you help me get started? Because I mean, presumably he knows what he wrote, or he would
Yeah.
know what he wrote, like would recognize it. I kind of want to have him get me started. It makes sense on the text.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see what can be done. Revelation, empowerment. Oh, neat. Cool. So he is going to give you the trait driven,
Whoa, nice.
and it will be to read this book.
Oh, that's super cool.
So he's
I
going to
think,
give you like his drivenness.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I think that a driven, it works as a call on for a skill
Yeah.
depending on how the trait is acquired. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah. Um, cool. I think if it's okay, I think that there's like a bit of like me flipping it open and like trying to sort of sound out and read the beginnings of it and like getting him to help me parse some of the things. It may also be that, you know, some of this text is not written, is encoded or is ciphered or whatnot. So I don't,
Right.
you know, I don't know to what degree he's made it difficult to read, but I think I spent some time going over the first few pages of it with him. And then kind of get a cadence, get a little bit of rhythm, pick up that drive,
Yeah.
and you know, and then say, you know, like your spell that protected you from the fire of the wheel, like so many things. I have to, you know, do this for myself. I have to carry on from here. But you know, you've gotten me started, and
Cool.
thank you for your wisdom and your time. And I've heard people like to know what's happened since, and I'm no historian, but and I like tell them a few like weird, like odd facts, you know. Your student Bulat has died. He died in a in a war to stop the handmaidens, these possibly fell spiders from ravaging all of the of Iron Shield.
The
The
handmaidens
Beacon
rose
Shield.
up.
They did. But the elves and the dwarves and humans and trolls um, and orcs, even I've heard, banded together to stop them.
Ah.
And Bulat
It
was
would
one of
take
them.
that. It would take the handmaidens to bring down Bulat. I thought that dwarf would last forever. I'm sorry to hear that he's gone.
I don't know about the new prince, but I hope that they're as kind as he is as the stories of him are.
If he is one of Bulat's kin, then I'm sure everything will be in good hands.
He was she sort of like chuckles and she says he was very kind to my mother as well. I even gave her some boots, and she like kind of like she's not wearing them right now, but she sort of
Yeah.
like cocks her head at the boots that are in the corner.
Your mother got a gift from Prince Bulat.
Yeah, like I said, she did that whole war stopping thing.
Huh. Well,
Said something about shaming him and that all of his men should shave their beards before they complain about having to do a hard day's work.
huh. I should have liked to have met your mother. Good luck, Nara. I don't think there's been an archmage quite like you ever before.
Big eyebrow raise of like, yeah, that's assuming I will be the archmage, but she says.
I know it is a far journey, but Ostafa is buried in her city, Ostafer. And her tomb is set up much like mine is. So if you can get there and you can speak to the guards of that tomb, you might be able to speak with her. Her point of view, I think, is something you would find valuable. But it is a far journey.
Yeah.
And you have a lot to do. So pick the things you have to do one at a time, and good luck.
Thank you, Igna. And go. And I think kind of reflexively, she makes a sign on the wheel. Because
Yeah.
it's weird to be talking to ghosts, even
Yeah.
sanctified ones. I
Yeah.
think it like she realizes, kind of strikes her again what she's doing, and um, like you said, it's cold down here. She can see her breath,
Yeah.
and I think she shivers. Not maybe fear, maybe 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 fear, maybe cold. Um, uh, yeah, and thanks him, and sort of signals Bezor to end the summoning. Should we make I mean, I feel like we already did it. I don't know if there's a sense in making a summoning test right now.
No, I like would have rolled it to the side, but I'm not interested in a failure. So
Yeah,
like, I feel like uh, this is a pretty easy test for Bezor. Like this is kind of what he does all the time. So he probably has like 3 dice in this order, and then he probably has like a 5 or 6 summoning, and then you know what I mean, like, and a bunch of
yeah,
things to fork in. Like
he's got it.
he's got it. He would have been throwing upwards of 9 dice, so it's okay.
Nice.
Um, so yeah,
Andy
cool.
said, Project Management 101. Step one, begin.
Yes, yeah, man. I got to tell you, every bit of procrastination is because I am scared to start. Right, like
Yeah,
that's the hardest part.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So cool. Yeah, Bezor um uh ends the summoning, and I think the room gets a little brighter and warmer, and then he shows you how to like smooth away the sand to get rid of the circles and the squares and the geometric shapes that you've put on the ground. And he says, "Was that valuable for you?"
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think I know how to answer your question last night, which is I would like to go on the path of archmagery. I don't know if that
There.
means I'm ever going to take the wheel from Willhold, but I think that there's a lot to learn, and I would like to know it. And if I could make the world a little better, protect a few roads,
Huh.
uh, maybe live up to my mom, but maybe do things totally different. If I could um, make make the next wonder that people remember not be a war or the prevention thereof, but something really miraculous. Um, or if I could just help a couple villagers not have to be bandits. Um, I think it's all worthwhile, and it's all possible. And I think that following that path of archmagery will help me do that.
So I have taught you the act of sorcery, which is one of the things that you must know. You know a little. You know a little astrology, enough to get yourself into trouble. You already
Yeah.
came to me with obscure history. Uh, to be honest, your sorcery is stronger than some fully bonded wizards and court sorcerers. So that is not something you will practice it because you will practice it, and it will get better. But you know it. Uh, I think we must look at the other aspects of wizardry and start to make a plan.
Agreed. But right now, I think I need a break from wizardry, and I'm going to go talk to some living people. If
Sounds
that's
good.
okay with you.
I will be taking a walk also. Yes.
Yeah. So the two things that I haven't, that Sean has in mind, that Nara has in mind, are looking for well, three things. My goodness, there's so many things going on here, and well, let's just figure out if we want to do any of them. We can do. I'm got energy and I'm good to go, but I'm also happy to
Yeah.
push. She wants to find Leodon and make good on her offer. If Leodon meets her, she wants to find the Fell Nightingale,
Yeah.
and she wants to find Kashi and
Cool.
Isa, because she's got ideas for all of them. I think the Nightingale is like the most obvious. She knows where she is, and she could go visit her. The others, it's a little bit of waiting for Leodun to find her. Kaji's probably not that hard to find. He kind of has a fanfare, I imagine.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that
So
hard
I think when you get out, it is dusk, right? And
nice.
You find the second day of the wizard's moot, and there is this amphitheater, and there is a table, like a crescent table with 5 chairs, and one of them is empty. And you hear Kaji stand up in the audience, and they're like at the point of the moot where they're like asking for people, does anyone have anything they need to present or a problem? And Kaji stands up and says, I would like to present my 3 chores for consideration, for an opportunity to pick up the burning wheel and be declared the archmage of my generation. And like everybody starts like there's this like, not an uproar, but like a murmur of excitement. And people start like talking back and forth. And there is this like old black woman, and she's like covered in shawls, as if like the night's chill might get to her, because she is like the oldest person you've ever seen. And she says, yeah, she's not an elf. Who is not an elf? Yeah. And she says, Kaji of the Weird, we know of you. We know your 3 chores are probably in order, but the council is not full. And as you know, it must be an anonymous vote, a unanimous vote, in order to allow someone the opportunity to touch the wheel. So until we have chosen a 5th member, we cannot take your chores. And also, something you might want to think about is that the chores can only be accepted in an official council meeting, which takes place, and she like gestures to like Wheelholt, like it's, or a room down the hall,
right,
which only takes place in the Great Wheelholt. And he says, well, how will we, when is that choosing going to be done? And he goes, the choosing is done by, and if you had read your Archmage's history, you would know this. And like people like are like, oh shit, like like she's kind of handing it to him a little bit. And she says, the council is chosen by Prince Balat II, and he is in the process of talking to folk. Does anyone else have anything to bring before the council? And Rasmus stands up and says, I would like to nominate someone for the council seat. I would like to, in our notes, in the letter that we will send to Bulat, I would like to mention a name. And there's like a bit of arguing, and like one of the council members is like, this isn't how it's done. And another one is like, actually, it is how this is done. Like, this has been done before. He's well within his rights. Like, this is historically how it's been done. And there's some like bickering back and forth. And then eventually Rasmus is allowed. And he says, Bezor of the Southern Forest, would you stand? And Bezor, looking very uncomfortable, stands up. And he says, would you accept the opportunity to hold counsel with Prince Bulat II and discuss to him how you would use your time on the Archmage's council? And Bezor says, I would be honored to have such an opportunity. And there's like a murmur among the crowd, and they say, does anyone else have any business they need to bring before the moot? we believe that a council proper will take place next week. We hope, but it is up to Prince Bulat's grace, and these things take time. And does anybody else have anything to say? Does Nara?
Oh no, Nara's
No.
not feeling like, hey, wizards, look at me. But she is definitely trying to get close to Kaji so that she can catch
Yeah.
him when this breaks up. Like she doesn't feel like she can talk to him during the moot, but she's trying to like
Yeah.
inch her way over there.
And I think like a younger woman stands up and says, I have heard that you can ask for lore from the vault. How do unaffiliated wizards and sorcerers and witches gain access to such things? And I think the older woman says, this is not a discussion for now. Why don't you come to me after and I will tell you how to do it? And she says, thank you. Thank you, Auntie. And like she's not her aunt, but like she's like it's like an honorific for like an older
Yeah.
woman, right? And that woman sits down, and then they say, you know, this moot is over. We will see you in 2 days. And you know, there's a hammer and like on a gavel, and it's slammed.
Yeah. And I think, when people get up and they're about, perhaps people are going to now schmooze or some or take away. I kind of want to appear in front of, or don't kind of want. I want to appear in front of Kaji, sort of to cut him off before he
Yeah.
would start talking to somebody else or meander off. Is he here alone or is Issa with him?
No, I think he's like got okay, he's got his knight and the knight squire and his apprentice, and there are like a bunch of other um wizards and court sorcerers around him. Like he's got a little posse.
Yeah.
From the weird dukes. And I think he like stands up among them and says, this is ridiculous. And they're like, yeah, this this council is being misused. We will, blah, 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 blah. And I think like you walk up to these like very finely dressed wizards and sorcerers.
Yeah. And I throw my hood back and I look up at them and I say in that way that like Nara is not very accustomed to dealing with people she doesn't know. She just kind of blurts. Yeah, she doesn't really know how to start a conversation with. She knows how to talk to Basinor, but she just doesn't know how to talk to people like Kaji. So she's like,
yeah,
you should be thankful. You should be glad they didn't accept you yet. It gives you more time to prepare.
Yeah, and I think like the whole crew, right? It's like court sorcerers and their apprentices and like everybody, and they all like stop and like, they give you like, yeah, it's like a mean girl glare. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not all ladies, but it's just
Sure.
like a very like, you're sitting at the wrong junior high lunch table type of vibe.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because Kaji's not that much older than I am. I think he's like a couple
yeah.
of years older than I am.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not. And he says, "Oh, the great prophesied one."
She says, you may have your chores prepared, but that doesn't mean that you're ready to carry the wheel. It doesn't mean that the wheel won't burn you. And just because the council, when it is formed, may approve them and may say that they're, and she's almost like at this point, like almost kind of quoting Igna verbatim, like, that she says the council's approval is important, but it is ultimately artifice. It does not equate to you being ready for carrying the wheel. It is one measure, and it is a worthy measure, but it is not truth. It does not mean you're ready.
And I think like Kaji starts to scoff, and like an older wizard like stops him, and she turns to you and says, "What does show that he's ready, apprentice?"
I think the She says the completion of the chores is a tool, much like the wheel itself, to burn away everything that isn't who we truly are. And she's almost sort of speaking like doctrine right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she says, but if you only seek to seek approval, you haven't proved yourself to the Lord of the Wheel, and you haven't prepared yourself for his fire.
Yeah.
There's steps along the way, but they are not the means to the end. The end, because I know she asked me like what does, and she hasn't really gotten
Yeah.
this, but she says the end, and she realizes now she's like out on a wing. But she says the end is when you know you have burned away everything except for what is ready to hold the wheel.
Woof.
And that's straight Nara just swinging
Yeah.
from the hip based off what she heard from Igna. That's not quoting anybody, but
Yeah.
up until then, she's sort of been cobbling together doctrine and what Igna said and other things.
So I feel like there should be a role, right? But like,
yeah.
Man, you're saying something so fucking true that it hurts.
I'm happy to bring it to a role because we can see whether the truth,
Yeah. Just because the truth doesn't mean people listen to it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you want? What do you think it's doctrine? You want to try to start to open doctrine?
I was thinking it was intimidation because I'm trying to scare him away from doing it, but doctrine is probably better in terms of whether, I think the question is whether the focus is speaking the truth or scaring or scaring him into believing what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is about what your intent is, right? So if your intent is to scare him, then let's roll with the skill that would do that. Yeah. So let's do intimidation. Intimidate.
All right. I have an instinct about this.
Nice.
So tell me if this sounds right. When preparing for an argument, always cast. I actually renamed it a little bit. Always cast Smoke and Shadows of the Starless Night to bolster my presence.
So you've already done that, like flashback.
Is that cool? Is that cool if I flash back?
Yeah. Do
like
it.
While the wizards were doing their stuff, I'm sort of gathering up the shadows from beneath people's feet. Like we see a few people walk by and their shadows have disappeared. And it kind of it sort of unveils when I pull back the cloak. Like we sort of see the shadows around around Nara.
Love it.
Dun, dun, dun. Let's try this. I think I want plus 2D again.
Make that roll.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring in astrology because I can, because I know I want to stand in this way. I'm actually standing directly, like, although it's dusk, so I think like stars are not very visible, but I know that I'm standing behind a particular constellation that evokes presence and power. All right, we'll call it the first die. Here we go. 1. Oh my goodness, here we go again. Let's try. I think my last fate. I keep doing this. I keep getting one away, and fate may save me. Gonna put a lot of fate in sorcery. It's my last one.
And did you take a bonus die for being?
Nice. I didn't take a bonus die for being for naming it. So let me do that.
Well, I mean, you already rolled, right? So
I did. Yeah, and I hit it.
Yeah.
But I might not need to spend the fate, but I'm happy to spend it anyway. So
no. You did not need to spend the fate. You forgot a die, and then you rolled it after.
Yes, that's true. Oh, you're right. Cool. Yeah. So that is 4 successes.
Cool.
On that.
On the spell, but now let's actually do the intimidation.
Yep. Here's the harder part. Yeah, I want to intimidate him. I think I would like to call upon my conversation with Antair as part of and ask for an advantage die when I say Antair
nice.
passed the 3 tests, performed the 3 chores.
Yeah.
But he was not ready.
Nice. Good.
And yeah, that sounds good. What's my ob here?
I mean, I think it's like, probably 4 and up,
Yeah.
All
right, I'm spending a persona. I am gonna fork in ugly truth, and the ugly truth is if you're not prepared, you're gonna get burned alive.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just not.
Yeah.
That's just
totally.
not. That's normal. And I think it also seems reasonable that I'm bringing in all the stuff that Igna just told me, and I'd like to fork in obscure history as well.
Yep.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Oh,
nice.
Just hit it.
So you also got 2 6s.
Oh yeah, and I still have that fate. I thought
you
I
still have a fate.
I'm gonna spend it. I think my my intimidate just went up too because I did a routine test. And yep, I need a 2 routine and 1 difficult, and that's my second routine.
Nice.
We'll adjust that in a second. All right, let's see if I can.
Boom, boom.
1 more. That's 5. 5 is pretty good.
Wow.
5 will is is most folks, right?
Yeah, I think yeah. They go quiet. I think in a very satisfying way, like you shut them the fuck up. And it's quiet enough that the people with a 6 will like keep quiet because everyone else is quiet, like I think it's that kind of thing where the same as like getting the 3 wills stop the banditry. I think getting up to the 5 wills, like, and I think a lot of the people with 6 will probably were giving you a success because they kind of saw your point anyway. Like I feel like you swayed the majority of them, like they're, except for maybe, Kaji. But like, yeah, the crowd goes quiet. Let us put it that way.
Cool.
And Kaji like looks around, like he's just like in shock that this is like that everybody is listening to you. And I think you hear like someone say like, Kaji, let's retire to our tower. Don't do this here. We shouldn't be discussing this here. And I think like as they walk away, the older woman who asked you like, hey, what do you mean by that? Like turns to you and says, I'm I am Yaka. Who are you?
Hi, hello, Yaka. And I think I like, do it like a nod of my head. And she sort of pauses. She's thinking about lying because her name carries with a lot of weight that she doesn't like. But I think in this circle, there's not. It seems like a bad idea to lie to wizards. So she says, "I'm Nara."
Well, it's good to meet you.
Thank you for giving me audience. even though the moot had ended.
Huh. You had interesting things to say. Kaji would do well to listen to you. Where are you staying?
I have I'm boarding with the wizard Rasmus. He's given me his
Oh,
guest quarters.
how auspicious. Good for you. Well, I might call on you there. Are you planning on staying there for a while?
If he'll have me until I wear out my welcome.
I know how that is. Well, uh, thank you for sharing your wisdom with Kaji. As I said before, I think he would do well to listen to it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the things you said were said from a place of compassion and not out of competitiveness or pettiness.
Thank you. I hope that that's true. That's my intent. Sometimes we lie to ourselves, but I don't think Kaji is ready. I think there's too much of him. And she sort of laughs because this is totally true of herself. And there's too much of him that wants to be the one who carried the wheel rather than being ready to do it. Being ready to do it. We all want to have had done great things.
Well said. Well said. Well, I hope my next apprentice has the wisdom that you do. Good luck. And just between us, Yisa has been needing a slap for a long time.
Thank you, Akka.
And yeah, she walks away. Definitely like long white hair, and maybe I think she had red hair once, and so it went white a bit early. So she's like in her 50s, and yeah, awesome. Why don't we do one more thing and then call it? What else did you want to do?
What are you feeling? Nightingale? Checking on the Phil Nightingale, or I think I would actually like to kind of resolve Leoden on now that I think about it. I would love. I mean, Nara would love to see the Phil Nightingale, but I'd kind of like to see how that, because I sort of built up to it. I'd like to see how
Yeah,
that plays out.
cool.
When she sees me not wrapped in smoke and shadow, and
Yeah, awesome. I think when you get back to Rasmus's tower, they you you know, Matthias says there is a guest waiting for you in the hall. She said she was from she said yeah, Bolnar.
Thank you, Matthias. Please, I imagine there's a parlor or a foyer or some sort of good meeting space.
Yeah.
Well, I guess she's already there. Never mind. So I go to wherever she is. Never mind.
Yeah, I think she's like at the place where you had breakfast, right? Which is called the Great Hall. It's not that big. This is just a little city tower, right? But it could seat a dozen people.
Right.
And Matthias has like given her some water and wine and maybe like a plate of food. And I think like as you get there, she didn't know when you were going to arrive, so like her mouth was full, and she like finishes chewing real fast and says, "You look much different when you're not clothed in shadow and smoke. You just look like a normal young lady, really."
And Nara's really unsure whether she should come off as like really tough, like I'm a wizard, we can take any form we want.
Right.
And so or whether like, yeah, that's right, I'm just a person. So she sort of just lets it hang because she isn't sure how to approach this conversation yet. And so she sort of lets that like air of mystery hang in the air of like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And she says, it looks like it looks like my host has treated you well.
Oh yes, they've treated me like a queen.
I do not claim this bounty. It's not mine to give, but I'm glad they shared it with you.
Oh,
But
this isn't where you live?
only where I'm lodging.
Oh,
But I understand that this place will be here for many years while the Archmage is chosen, and that there is great need of people in all sorts of roles. There will be more travelers on the road, which could make for more prey, but also they will be often defended by knights and wizards, which would make it even more dangerous for you to continue. Have you thought about my offer? And I think
I
like
did
out
not. I did not want the young folk of our village to turn to banditry, but it's very difficult to talk them out of it, given what we have. We have nothing. And when we get up enough, the fact that we haven't paid taxes in years is thrown in our face. And the Lord of Karakage comes with a small army and loots us for back taxes. Carries off women and children. It's been the way of Bolnar for centuries.
and Nara says, "Oh, I know." And I think she just finally decides like, this woman's being real with me. I've got to be real with her. And so
Yeah.
she sits down and she says, "You, yeah, I mean, Boulder was tiny. It was a small village."
Yeah.
And she says, "You probably know my mother, Bina. She was one such captive carried away."
And I think like when you say it, her eyes just go wet.
I understand that she stayed there for many years as a captive, but eventually married my father and decided to stay. She, I think, was too embarrassed to return home. She wasn't sure what people would think of her. And I'm sorry that I hurt so many people from my home, from my, from her home.
How would you seek to help us?
If I was my mother, I would probably go find some lord and convince him to give you a better job and say smart words that stroke his ego and convince him that you're the best thing he could ever have, and he would look like he'd been tricked by sorcery and yet he hadn't, and he would give you all jobs and give you something to do. But I'm not my mother. I don't know how to talk to people like that, but I do have a big stack of coin. And she like drops this big old pile of coin, this big old bag of coin on the table. She says, "I would tell you to find lodging and jobs here in Shadowhold and send money that you can make back to Bolnar, and don't tell the taxman about it as long as you can." I don't think that's a great answer, but I do have some friends here, and I imagine that some of these wizards are in need, and I probably can't fix the Lord of Karakage. Right. Do you have to? Are you good?
Yeah, I've got a hard stop in 4 minutes. I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
All right, all good.
Yeah,
sounds good. So should we leave this hanging in the air and then?
Yeah, I think we should leave. Yeah, I think we should leave this hanging in the air. I mean, you're giving her the money, and let's continue there next game. I am so sorry. I lost track of time because
all
time has no meaning in this era of plague.
This was a morning game and it's gone long past morning.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Artha, or do you want to do that over email, and we'll wrap up here?
I hate to do this, but I need to do Artha next time. I am sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, or over email. Yeah.
Yeah. Either one's fine.
Yeah. The good news is we've got a a recording, so that's great. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. All good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks for even though I had a long break in the middle of it. This was a super fun session. Um, I'm Sean. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me at Sean Nittner. I'm up to things, but I'm on this channel all the time. I can talk about what I'm up to another time. How about you, John?
my name is Judd, he, him. I've got a podcast called Daydreaming About Dragons. It's got a new, pretty crisp logo now. And if you'd like to take a look at it, please do. And I've also got a blog where I have a bunch of starters for Burning Wheel, campaign ideas, and that's where this game actually came from. So, check it out, take a look, and thank you very much for joining us. It's really lovely to have. I joked that, like, we've got so many people here. There are 8. Like, how could you want to make us more famous than that? But I actually do adore the crowd we get here, and thank you all for coming. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's great, and it's very fun to do a morning game, which is
Yeah,
now definitely turning into a late afternoon or evening game for you. But
yeah, yeah.
this is a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that that we got to do it, and we'll see everybody again next week because this was a reschedule. So we'll see everybody again next Friday.
Yep.
All right, friends. Good to see you. We'll take care. Take care of yourselves in the meantime.